Football is a brutal sport, injuries are common, and sometimes they can derail Hall of Fame careers before they get a chance to fully develop. Today we'll be going over some star players who had brutal injuries that totally derailed their career. Press the like button if you think you know who the #1 player is. At the number 10 spot is Daunte Culpepper. He was supposed to be the future, a quarterback who could move, sling it, and run over linebackers if he had to. In 2004, it looked like that prophecy was being fulfilled. That year, Culpepper passed for 4,717 yards and 39 touchdowns with just 11 interceptions, all while completing nearly 70% of his passes. In an era before the passing game was turbocharged by every rule under the sun, he wasn't just good, he was MVP runner-up, second only to peak Peyton Manning. The Vikings had their franchise quarterback. Life was good. And then the NFL gods did what they always do. They rolled the dice, and Daunte lost. Culpepper first showed signs of vulnerability in 2001 when he missed the last 5 games of the season due to a knee injury. But he bounced back. By 2003, he was healthy. And by 2004, he looked like the most dangerous quarterback not named Manning. He didn't just bounce back, he reloaded and went nuclear. But then came 2005. No more Randy Moss, no more elite weapons, no more offensive line protection. And then came the moment that would change everything. Week 8, Carolina Panthers. Culpepper took a hit, an ugly one. He tore not 1, not 2, but 3 ligaments in his right knee. The ACL, MCL, and PCL. Basically everything holding the damn thing together. It was the kind of injury that would derail a tight end, let alone a quarterback who relied on his legs to buy time and power throws. Vikings fans didn't know it yet, but Culpepper's prime had just evaporated in a single snap. He tried to come back. In 2006, he was traded to the Dolphins. That experiment lasted 4 games. In 2007, he signed with the Raiders. That one lasted 7 games. His legs were never the same, his mechanics broke down, and the cannon of an arm couldn't save him from the erosion of everything else. By 2009, he was with the Detroit Lions, the same Lions who had just gone 0-16, and he was backing up a rookie named Matthew Stafford, from MVP candidate to backup on a winless team in 4 years. That's how fast it happens in the NFL. Culpepper's story is a harsh reminder. It doesn't matter how big your arm is or how bright your star shines. If your knees betray you, the league moves on. Fast. Brutally fast. Before Barry Sanders danced through defenses in Detroit, the Lions already had a star at running back. His name was Billy Sims, and if you've never heard of him, that's not your fault. His career burned fast and bright, then vanished like it never happened. But back in the early 80s, Billy Sims was the guy, and he was supposed to be the one to finally lift the Lions out of mediocrity. Sims was the first overall pick in the 1980 NFL Draft, a Heisman winner out of Oklahoma with the speed, power, and swagger to match. And unlike most highly touted Lions draft picks, he actually lived up to the hype. Right out the gate, he tore up the league, over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns as a rookie. He was elusive, violent, graceful, all rolled into one. Barry Sanders may have had more finesse, but Billy was a damn hammer with a jetpack. He made 3 Pro Bowls in his first 4 seasons. He was that good. And then, in 1984, it was over. Week 8 against the Minnesota Vikings. Sims took a hit to the left knee, one he wouldn't recover from. Torn ligaments, shredded cartilage, a career-ending injury before arthroscopic surgeries and ACL repairs were the norm. Sims tried to come back. He really did, but it was 1984. Sports medicine wasn't ready, and neither was Detroit for life without him. He finished his career with 5,100 rushing yards and 42 touchdowns in just 5 seasons. For context, he still ranks 4th all-time in Lions rushing yards, nearly 40 years later. That's how explosive he was. And how quickly it ended. If Billy Sims played today, with modern surgery and rehab protocols, he's probably a Hall of Famer, but instead, he's a what if. A highlight reel hidden in VHS tapes and whispered about by old school fans like a mythological figure who could have been king. He was electric, he was everything Detroit wanted, and then his knee gave out and the city waited another decade for Barry Sanders to fill the void. Toon wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, he just quietly went out and dominated defenders with surgical precision. Drafted 10th overall in 1985, Toon became the New York Jets' go-to wideout almost overnight. He wasn't the tallest or the fastest, but he ran routes like they were drawn with a ruler and caught damn near everything thrown his way. From 1986 to 1988, Toon was a monster, 3 straight Pro Bowls, led the AFC in receptions. In 1988, he caught 93 passes, when the league leader usually didn't even break 80. He was tough, smooth, and reliable. If he played today, every fantasy football nerd would be fighting over him like he was Cooper Kupp with dreads. But the hits kept coming, literally. Toon suffered at least 9 concussions during his short career. Back then, concussions were treated like getting your bell rung. You'd see stars, maybe throw up on the sideline, then get taped up and sent back in. CTE wasn't even a rumor, but Toon was ahead of his time after a particularly bad hit in 1992, one that left him dazed and unsure of his own name. Toon made a decision that shocked the league. He walked away. At just 29 years old, still at the top of his game, Toon retired. He'd racked up over 500 receptions and nearly 7,000 yards in 8 seasons, all with the Jets. He could have chased records. He could have signed with another team and extended his prime, but he chose to protect his brain. Before the rest of the league even acknowledged brain injuries were a thing, his early exit robbed the Jets of a true wide receiver one and probably cost Toon a shot at the Hall of Fame. But years later, as players like Junior Seau and others became cautionary tales, Toon looked more like a visionary than a quitter. In a sport that celebrates toughness to a dangerous degree, Toon had the courage to say, enough. His career was derailed by injury, yes, but it was ended by wisdom, and in hindsight, that might have been the bravest play of his life. There was a moment, a very specific moment, now when it felt like Cadillac Williams was going to take over the NFL. Week 1 of his rookie season in 2005, he broke off a 71-yard run like a man shot out of a cannon. Week 2, another 128 yards. Week 3, 158 more. He set an NFL record for the most rushing yards in a player's first 3 games. People were ready to crown him the next great running back. Tampa Bay had found their guy, and with a name like Cadillac, the marketing team had already printed the billboards. He finished his rookie season with over 1,100 yards, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and looked like he'd be in Pro Bowl conversations for the next decade. But the thing about Cadillacs, they're built for smooth highways. The NFL, that's all potholes and wreckage. In 2007, it all came crashing down. Literally, Williams tore the patellar tendon in his right knee. Not the ACL, not the MCL, the patellar tendon, the cord that holds your kneecap in place and lets you do things like walk. It's one of the nastiest injuries a running back can suffer, and most guys never come back from it. The Bucs were quiet. Fans assumed his career was over, but somehow in 2009, he made it back. He grinded through 2 years of brutal rehab just to prove he still had something in the tank. He even earned the starting job again and rushed for 800 yards. Not flashy, not Rookie of the Year Cadillac, but it was a miracle he was playing at all. Then fate struck again. This time it was the other knee, another torn patellar tendon. Opposite leg, same nightmare. If the first injury was devastating, the second felt cruel. That should have been the final nail, but Williams, he refused to quit. In 2010, he played all 16 games for the Bucs, again, and in 2011, he even backed up Steven Jackson in St. Louis. His numbers were never the same, but his willpower was unreal. Cadillac Williams will never be remembered as an all-time great running back, but he should be remembered as a man who broke the mold. Not because of what he accomplished, but because of what he endured. 2 career-ending injuries, and somehow he kept driving. If you just look at stats, you might think Priest Holmes was a flash in the pan, but in the early 2000s, for a 3-year stretch, he was the best running back in football. And it wasn't close. Undrafted, overlooked, undeniable. Holmes started his NFL career as an afterthought in Baltimore, backing up Jamal Lewis, buried on the depth chart. But when he got to Kansas City in 2001, man turned into a cheat code. In his first season with the Chiefs, he led the league in rushing. In 2002, he put up 2,287 scrimmage yards and 24 total touchdowns. And in 2003, he casually broke the NFL single-season touchdown record with 27 trips to the end zone. He was patient, explosive, and terrifying in the red zone. The Chiefs built their entire offense around him, behind that legendary O-line with Willie Roaf and Will Shields. And for a hot minute, Holmes was untouchable. Fantasy football legend, MVP level numbers, Hall of Fame trajectory, then came the injuries. Because of course they did. In 2004, Holmes suffered a hip injury that cut his season short. Still finished with 14 touchdowns in just 8 games. That's how absurd he was. But the following year, 2005, it all unraveled. A hit by Shawnee Merriman led to spinal trauma. Not a knee, not an ankle, spinal. He was placed on injured reserve. The whispers started. He might never play again. And while he did make a brief comeback in 2007, 2 years later, it wasn't the same. Just 46 carries, no touchdowns. The burst was gone. The magic faded. Larry Johnson had taken over the backfield, and Priest Holmes quietly walked away from the game. His prime lasted basically 3.5 seasons. That's it. But in those 3.5 years, he scored 83 touchdowns. That's more than some running backs get in a decade. Priest Holmes wasn't built to last, but for a short, glorious window, he was football's version of a supernova. Burning hot, burning fast, and burning out way too soon. Steve Emtman was a prototype, a defensive lineman straight out of a football lab, 6'4", 290 pounds, with the speed of a linebacker and the strength of a bulldozer in 4th gear. At the University of Washington, he was completely unblockable, the kind of player who made offensive coordinators think about calling in sick. In 1991, he won the Outland Trophy, the Lombardi Award, was a unanimous All-American, and finished 4th in Heisman voting. As a defensive lineman, that's how dominant he was. So when the 1992 NFL draft rolled around, the Colts didn't blink. First overall pick, done deal. They thought they were getting a game wrecker, a 10-year defensive cornerstone, the next Reggie White. Instead, they got one of the most heartbreaking what could have been stories in league history. 7 games into his rookie season, Emtman blew out his left knee, tore his ACL and patellar tendon. That's like snapping the cable holding a suspension bridge together. He fought back, rehabbed, returned in 1993, then promptly tore his right patellar tendon. Both knees wrecked before he played a full NFL season, but he wasn't done yet. In 1994, Emtman suffered a ruptured disc in his neck. Just to recap, 2 patellar tendons, 1 ACL, and a spinal injury in under 3 seasons. If his body were a car, it would have been totaled and stripped for parts. Still, the guy kept showing up. He played for Miami, he played for Washington. He even managed to scrape together 50 career games over 5 seasons. But the man we saw in the NFL was a shadow of the one who terrorized college football. The explosion was gone, the dominance erased. Every snap was played on borrowed time, and it's a damn shame because Emtman had all the tools, Hall of Fame potential, but his body just waved the white flag before his career could even get started. In the end, Steve Emtman wasn't a bust because he couldn't play. He was a bust because his knees, back, and ligaments tapped out before his talent ever had the chance to take over. He's the cautionary tale teams still whisper about when draft day rolls around. Sometimes it's not about heart or talent, our work ethic. Sometimes the body just breaks. Gale Sayers didn't play football. He danced through it. He floated. He weaved. He vanished like smoke. Defenders didn't tackle Gale Sayers. They chased ghosts and grabbed air. Nicknamed the Kansas Comet, Sayers wasn't just fast. He was poetry in motion, and he didn't need a long career to prove it. He played just 7 seasons, but really only 5 full ones. Yet somehow he made the Hall of Fame. That tells you everything you need to know. Drafted by the Chicago Bears in 1965, Sayers exploded onto the scene with 22 total touchdowns as a rookie, a record that still stands. In one game against the 49ers, he scored 6 touchdowns. 6. It's a stat line that looks made up, like something from Madden on rookie mode. He could cut on a dime, shift direction without losing speed. He was the kind of back that left defenders needing therapy, and on top of that, he was returning kicks and punts like a cheat code. His blend of vision and explosiveness was decades ahead of its time, but then came the injuries. In 1968, he tore the ACL, MCL, and meniscus in his right knee, an injury that today ends seasons. But back then, careers. Everyone assumed it was over, but Sayers wasn't done. In 1969, he came back and led the league in rushing, not with speed, but with grit. He reinvented himself as a power runner. No more cuts, no more jukes, just sheer will. It was like watching a fighter past his prime still swinging with everything he had. He won Comeback Player of the Year and the respect of every single person who saw what he did on one good leg, but the body couldn't keep up. In 1970, he tore up his other knee, another ACL, more surgeries, more pain, and that was it. The magic was gone. He finished with just 4,956 rushing yards. But if you think that's the whole story, you missed the point. Gale Sayers wasn't great because of what he accumulated. He was great because of how he played. He made the impossible look routine. He was the blueprint for every electric back who came after him. 6 years. That's all we got. But in those 6 years, Gale Sayers gave us a lifetime of highlights. He was a comet. Beautiful, blazing, and gone too soon. Terrell Davis had one of the shortest Hall of Fame careers in NFL history. And yet, if you were watching football in the late 90s, it felt like he ruled the league for a decade. That's how dominant he was. For 4 years, he wasn't just good. He was a wrecking ball wearing number 30, dragging the Broncos to the mountaintop and daring the rest of the league to stop him. He was drafted in the 6th round in 1995. A long shot, a special teams guy, they said. Barely made the roster. Then preseason hit, and Davis laid someone out on kickoff coverage, got a few carries, and never looked back. By mid-season, he wasn't just Denver's starter, he was their franchise. From 96 to 98, Davis went nuclear. Back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons, 2 Super Bowl wins, and a 2,008-yard MVP campaign in 1998. Only the 4th back ever to hit the 2,000-yard mark. He was unstoppable, tough between the tackles, shifty in space, and cool under pressure. Want a clutch player? Terrell Davis ran for 157 yards in the Super Bowl with a migraine so bad he couldn't see. Literal blind greatness. But then came the crash. In 1999, Davis tore his ACL and MCL while trying to make a tackle after an interception. The kind of play that lives in the unwritten rules section of running back nightmares. After that, he was never the same. The knees didn't respond, the burst was gone, the pain never left. He spent the next few seasons battling swelling, rehab setbacks, and doubt. By 2001, he was done. Just like that, a career that looked destined for all-time greatness ended at age 29. He played only 78 games in his career, but in that short time, Davis rushed for 7,607 yards, scored 65 touchdowns, and became the engine behind a Broncos dynasty. He was the reason John Elway finally got over the hump. He was the difference. And for that short stretch, he wasn't just the best running back in the NFL. He was the best player in football. Period. Terrell Davis didn't fade. He flashed. A 4-year meteor across the league sky, and even though his knees betrayed him, his legacy never will. If you're under 30, you probably know Sterling Sharpe as Shannon's older brother, the quieter one on NFL Network. But back in the early 90s, Sterling Sharpe was that dude. The Green Bay Packers' entire passing game, a walking mismatch, a grown man running routes like clockwork and catching everything in sight. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, he was just better than your best corner. Every single week. Drafted 7th overall in 1988, Sharpe made an immediate impact. Over his first 7 seasons, he racked up 595 catches, 8,134 yards, and 65 touchdowns. For context, that's a better 7-year start than Jerry Rice. In 1992, he became the first receiver in NFL history to catch 100 passes in back-to-back seasons. In 1993, he caught 18 touchdowns, which led the league. And just as a bonus, he made 5 Pro Bowls and was named first-team All-Pro 3 times. And then, his neck gave out. Late in the 1994 season, Sterling suffered a neck stinger so severe that doctors told him continuing to play could lead to paralysis. Not soreness, not pain, paralysis. It was the kind of injury that doesn't leave much room for ego. So at just 29 years old, in the heart of his prime, Sharpe retired. No farewell tour, no decline phase, no final shot at a Super Bowl alongside young Brett Favre. Just gone. And maybe the most brutal part, his younger brother Shannon, who is in the Hall of Fame, has said multiple times that Sterling was the better player. It's not just family bias. Watch the tape. Sterling Sharpe could have been an all-timer, a 12,000-yard, 100-touchdown guy, easy, maybe more. Instead, he's a legend frozen in time. 7 seasons, that's all we got. But in those 7, he did enough to make people say, what if? every time a great receiver steps on the field in Green Bay. Not every tragedy in the NFL is front page news. Some careers don't end with a bang, and they just disappear quietly before the world gets to see what could have been, like Greg Cook, a quarterback the Bengals once believed would redefine the position. Drafted in 1969, he had the size, the arm, the vision. In his rookie season, he averaged over 9 yards per attempt, which is elite by today's standards. But after just 11 games, a devastating shoulder injury ended his career. That was it. 11 games of brilliance, one ruined shoulder, and a lifetime of what-ifs. Then there's William Andrews, a running back for the Falcons in the early 80s who looked like a Hall of Famer in the making. He rushed for over 1,300 yards in back-to-back seasons, caught passes like a wideout, and ran like he was mad at the ground. But in the 1984 preseason, a catastrophic knee injury shredded multiple ligaments. He missed 2 full seasons, and while he made a brief return, he was never the same. A career that could have rivaled Walter Payton's was reduced to highlight reels and regret. And finally, Kendall Bell, a defensive wrecking ball who exploded onto the scene with the Steelers in 2001. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Fast, violent, explosive. He looked like the next great linebacker in a city that defines itself by them, but a series of knee and groin injuries took away his burst, his edge, and eventually his career. By 2007, he was out of the league. 3 names, 3 stories, 3 careers that never got to hit cruise control. Sometimes greatness flashes for a moment, and that moment's all we get. There are legends, and then there's Bo Jackson. Bo wasn't just great, he was impossible. He wasn't built like a football player, he was built like a Marvel character. He ran a 4.1 40-yard dash at 230 pounds. He threw baseballs like missiles from the warning track. He stiff-armed linebackers into the turf, and then went and hit home runs for the Kansas City Royals the next day. Bo Jackson didn't belong to a sport, he was the sport. All of them. When he joined the Raiders in 1987, it wasn't just a publicity stunt. Bo made NFL defenders, grown men, paid to hit hard, look like they were moving in slow motion. Just ask Brian Bosworth, or better yet, ask the stadium full of people who watched Bo run 91 yards untouched, straight into the tunnel because he couldn't be bothered to stop in the end zone. He wasn't supposed to be real, but he was, and that's what makes his story so cruel. In January 1991, during a playoff game against the Bengals, Bo took a routine tackle to the hip. Nothing dramatic, just a defender grabbing him from behind and pulling him down, but something was off. He got up, limped, and then never played another NFL snap again. What happened? A hip dislocation so severe that it cut off the blood supply to the bone. A vascular necrosis. A medical fluke. His hip didn't just dislocate, it died. The joint literally began to rot from the inside. Doctors had to remove and replace it. At just 28 years old, Bo Jackson's football career was over, and with it, we lost what might have been the greatest running back of all time. He tried to keep his baseball career alive, and somehow did, even with an artificial hip, even hitting home runs for the White Sox, but he wasn't the same, and in 1994, Bo walked away from sports for good. He finished his NFL career with just 2,782 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns. Stats that don't even begin to tell the story. Bo wasn't defined by numbers, he was defined by moments. The kind of moments that made you question physics. He didn't play long, but Bo Jackson changed the way people thought about athletes, about possibility, about what the human body could do, and how fast it could all disappear. Bo knew everything, but we never got to know what Bo could have been. Those are just some of the most promising careers that were derailed by huge injuries. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below because it really helps us in the algorithm. Check out our last video about forgotten NFL draft busts.